Another book review for me. This time a nonfiction book, The Elephant Whisperer. Lawrence Anthony with Graham Spence, it says. So I'm thinking Lawrence, who the book is about, has been telling the Spence guy, well, about his life and experiences, and it's Spence who's actually written the book. Ghost-written, collaboration, whatever. It's a nonfiction book. Partial biography of the guy that I mentioned, Lawrence Anthony, who is the Elephant Whisperer of the title. Unfortunately, Anthony is no longer with us. He died, I think about 2 years ago, or a little less, sadly. He was South African, and he was a conservationist and not a gamekeeper, but he owned and operated a game reserve in Zululand in South Africa. And he did a lot more than what is chronicled in this book. This book is about his experiences with elephants. Basically what happened was that he had lots and lots of different animals on his reserve, which is called Tula Tula. The one thing he didn't have was elephants. And that was basically by choice. Yeah, they were big, they were difficult. He didn't really know how to deal with them, so he had decided to not necessarily go for elephants. But at one point, he was offered a herd, basically. He was told that there was a herd of elephants in another part of the country who were difficult and who were basically going to be euthanized if they couldn't find some place for them to live. Some reserve where they could go and have space enough and basically be left to their own devices for however long it took for them to settle down and create a normal life for themselves, because they had been through some excruciatingly traumatizing times, these elephants. I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted by a bit of my hair that's sticking out. Anyway, this was something that for Lawrence Anthony was at first like too much of a challenge. He talks a lot about it in the book, that these rogue elephants, people were calling them, seemed an enormous challenge and seemed too difficult and seemed also very dangerous to him, because he had all these other animals, he had a lot of people working for him who depended on him for their livelihood, and if this didn't work out, then what are you going to do? It seemed like too big of a risk, but at the same time, these animals, they were going to be put down. They were going to be killed. So Anthony decided eventually that he just couldn't let that happen. He just couldn't do it. So he decided to take them in. And they came to Tula Tula, and they were very difficult. They had no faith in humans, no trust in our species. They were hostile and aggressive, and they were prepared to do anything to defend themselves. And for Anthony, he realized that once he had taken this step and decided, yeah, they can come here, they can stay here, he would just have to do whatever it took to make that work, because it was life or death for these animals, and they basically seemed to know it. So he basically put in an enormous effort to make this happen at personal risk and with a lot of emotional toil for him, physical risk. He basically did anything he could do to make them understand that it was safe to stay in Tula Tula, they were welcome there, and they would be allowed to live to have their normal lives there. And eventually he did succeed, of course. And this book is the story of, first, how he achieved that. And that is a very fascinating part of the story. His personal interactions with the elephants and their responses. As an elephant lover, that was the most fascinating part of the book for me. How he worked to gain their trust and to help them understand that, yeah, humans can be really bad, but not all humans necessarily are dangerous enough that you just have to get away from them. Some humans an elephant can actually trust. And as he put himself on the line to make them understand that they were finally safe, that they could trust him and his staff, he also got to know them, and his descriptions of them and their behavior and their reactions is also really fascinating, because like most elephant lovers, I really do believe that they are as different from each other, you know, as individuals as we are. That they have a very deep emotional life, and that they have much more than you see at first glance to them. And if you don't believe that, if you think that anthropomorphization plays too big a deal in the perception of elephants that some people have, such as myself, and such as Lawrence Anthony had, then you should read up on elephants. You should read about what we have learned in recent years about the evolution of their brains, for instance, which parallels our own to a surprising extent. But anyway, this is basically the story of Lawrence Anthony and his herd of elephants. It's fascinating. It's very moving. It's at times very sad. I won't lie to you. Some really tragic things happen that Lawrence learned a lot from, that maybe he realized too late that he had made some mistakes. But yeah, he must have been a really special guy when I read this book. Not very recently, like maybe 2.5 years ago. I felt like I really, really wanted to go to Thula Thula and see that place and meet this guy. So when about 1.5 years ago, I think it was, I heard that he died, I was very, very sad by that. Rest in peace, Mr. Anthony. It's a fascinating story. As an elephant lover, you're going to be really sad because, like I said, some tragic things happen. But overall, this book is very well worth reading because it gives a lot of insight into elephant psychology as seen from this guy's viewpoint, from where he was coming as an outsider to a group of traumatized elephants who had no reason to trust humans, where he had to work up and build their faith in our species from literally burning rubble. You know, nothing was left of it. And the way he was able to help them create life for themselves, and yeah. And there's also insight into basically the running of a game reserve in South Africa with all the problems that they have with poachers and things like that. So it is also of a bit more general interest to people who are interested in nature conservation, wildlife conservation. It's not all about elephants. He does talk about running the game reserve more generally, and he also does talk about his, as a sort of upper class and white person, his relationship with the local people who live in villages around the area, and his work to try and create awareness of the problems of poaching and to stop the whole bushmeat trade, all kinds of trade that the poaching is the symptom of, basically. So it is a really interesting book for a lot of people, I think. It's it inspires you to want to go to Africa and see for yourself. I really do. It's a dream of mine. A story from Zululand about a remarkable man and some remarkable elephants. Very well worth reading. Maybe not necessarily brilliantly written, I can't say that, but the story is absolutely fascinating. So if you love elephants and you haven't read this, the story of Lawrence Anthony and his herd of elephants, you should definitely read it. It's a wonderful book. I'm so glad I got the chance to read it.